to Spike Down. My name's Keith Fortune. Joining me as always is Roy, and it's episode 4, and we're heading into week 5. Not only is it week 5, there's a couple things that it's attached to that. Final week of play, which means relegation's right around the corner, which also means midseason cup is right there. But before we can get into all that and all that juicy goodness, let's talk about predictions last week, Roy. How'd you do? I think you did all right.
Yeah, listen, I just want to say whoever is messing with the time machine, they need to really stop, because there's no way we're already at week 5. That's just insanity. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to go into predictions straight away.
Let's do it. Let's see how everyone did.
There was people did. Some things were done.
Yeah.
I think the first match was super tough to predict, to be honest. There was pretty much a split decision, a little bit leaning towards the SAD side, which I think, SAD ended up winning 2-0. So everyone did a pretty good job there. I'd like to give a shout out to my coworker, aka Seaside, as well as Dryad, for being the only ones predicted the Turtle Troop game versus TSM. I have to admit that is an impressive guess, because that was a tough one, to be honest.
Well, I'm happy I'm not alone in my madness for this pick. It's hard to always be right sometimes, once in a while. But humbly accept. Although you were right about the SAD pick, so. And everyone was right about the Moistek Shopify pick, the auction, the M80. Those are all very across the board unanimous. Wyatt going outside the box with a Thinking Men pick. I do respect it.
I actually do respect it.
The rest of the week was kind of, I felt like last week was timid. I think this week is maybe where we get crazy with it. At least me. I'm getting crazy with it.
Yeah, it's like the first 4 weeks were like the story and world building episodes. And now we're in like we're going straight from world building to peak action and like decisions that are about to be happening right here in week 5 of VCL NA. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, decisions are getting made. That is for sure. Everything's coming into place. And let's talk about last week. Predictions aside, let's take a look. We'll go match by match, give a couple minutes to each. And obviously, as we mentioned, starting the week with SAD versus the Glazers. I might get some credit for one of my picks, but I'm not getting credit for the Glazers pick. SAD take the win. It's funny, Roy. We talked about this last week. The Glazers aren't playing bad. They're just not winning. It's a weird thing to say out loud. They're winning rounds and the games are close and they're playing okay, but they're not winning those match-defining rounds, I guess is a fair way to put it.
Yeah, no, the way I think a good analogy in my mind is like they have cooked a very nice dish, but they kind of forgot to put the seasoning in. You know what I'm saying? Like they have the ingredients. They're just missing a little bit of that flair that makes them sort of unique, right? Like when I'm watching them, it just seems like I don't want to say they're playing generic Valorant. That seems kind of bad, but they're not playing like super exciting Valorant. Like they're playing very fundamental, very structured Valorant. There's no like X factor, it feels like. And I think they could benefit a lot from having just like some kind of boom for some kind of like flair that really like identifies them as a team.
And I think a fair comparison, maybe, you could tell me if this is a fair comparison, would be a team like TSM, maybe a team like YFP, where we get firepower, which I would say on par with the Glazers, but team comp and uniqueness maybe is what separates them right now. Not necessarily going meta or not going meta. They're just finding interesting balance where their utility can bail them out of situations where they might be outgunned. I don't know if that's fair to say, Roy. It feels fair, but I might be out of touch with that.
Yeah, it's honestly really tough to say, because their match against SAD was actually super, super close. Like it really just came down to like a few key rounds going in either direction, to be honest, and SAD ended up winning them. But in terms of like compositions themselves, it's totally mundane. Like there's nothing really insane going on for either teams in the 2 maps that were played. Like Split, they're pretty meta comps. Sunset was a pretty like kind of meta comp. It wasn't really anything too wild. But I have to say that Bob really came through for her team this week. Yeah, she had an insane performance, and on top of that as well, you can already tell that there are some things that are kind of clicking for SAD, where like we're starting to see them play more of their game, and they're not really too worried about like matching their opponents or kind of doing anything. Like they're sort of resorting back to that really slow, controlled default, relying on the fact that they have like super vocal players in every role, right? Like that is their strengths, and they're starting to kind of play into it, and you can just tell like. I think outgun is sort of fair to say to kind of like roll it back a little bit, because look at the first kills and first stats, right? Like you just look at those stats and you can kind of tell like, man, like TG, if they were just winning just a little bit more first kills, these matches would be like completely different, I think.
Yeah, completely agree. Shout out to Bob. As you said, she played really unreal. And I would say that's a nice turnaround from SAD, a team that I think have these great ideas and ideas of comps. Like Ascent is one we kind of liked what they saw, but the performance and result weren't exactly aligned. But a team that I think if they could find consistency and get Skarn online, Darkus seems to be Mr. Consistent. And if Bob can settle in like she is, mid-season contender cup, maybe they're contenders. We could see. Who knows? The second game of that day was Turtle Troop versus TSM. As we know, got the pred right, but it was a risk that I think not many people are willing to take in their Preds, and rightfully so. Turtle Troop looking a little shaky in week 3, week 4. It's kind of like, okay, they're going against TSM. As you mentioned, they're kind of on their progression curve, match. Getting better and better. But Turtle Troop pull it out. Good signs from them. What do you think? Was it more good play from Turtle Troop, TSM faltering, or was it just a good match across the board?
I think there must have been some sort of like internal conversation that was happening at Turtle Troops that has like created like radical changes, because they pulled out a completely new comp on Sunset. So that was like, they probably had like some kind of surprise factor, or like TSM was prepping for a specific thing, and then boom, day of the match comes in. They've reverted to a completely different composition, right? They went back to an Omen, Cypher, KO, Gecko, Raze. That's sort of like the pseudo Sentinel, if not the Sentinel composition on that map. So I think they must have had some kind of conversations, and they kind of like toned down the deadlock a little bit. And they're leaning back into a more meta. And immediately the results have shown that like, okay, maybe a simple game plan with simple compositions might work better for us than trying to like reinvent the wheel and then play like a completely different version of Valorant. Because I mean, they had a pretty solid performance against TSM.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that stands out for me is it doesn't look like Corey is trying to do too much, if that makes sense. Like the first couple matches, I think with new comps and trying new ideas, I think there's two things that get affected. One, your duelists and how they take fights and their pathing. And then two, how does your Sentinel play into the whole system? And I think now that Turtle Troop have gone back to, it seems like comforts, you know, I haven't watching them this week, I never felt like, okay, B-Dog shouldn't be on Gecko here, or ooh, his breach doesn't look great. It felt comfortable. And I think Corey thrives in that comfortability. I mean, clearly Weeda does as well. Just
I was gonna say
Omen. So really cool stuff from them.
I feel like it's been a minute since Weeda has shown that he has the potential to like really take over games, right? Like he's sort of taken on this sort of like supportive back roll seat in this team, considering like the talent that he has, right? Like you got Corey, B-Dog, and Adder. Like how much work do you really have to do when you have these players on your team? But I mean, he came through 26-9 on a 21 round game. That's insanity. Plus 17, 10 assists. Like just great. They did a really good job setting up Corey as well. So they're kind of going back into the sort of like setup system, set up your duelist, and then go from there, which I think worked out really, really well for them. And it sort of caught TSM off guard. Yeah,
TSM not in any danger of relegation. In fact, none of these teams are. So kind of just really early feelers heading into the midseason cup. Excited to see how that progresses. Story of 2-0s continues. Heading into day 2, TWT, Moist X Shopify. Honestly, my summary of this, Roy, MXS just looked way more coordinated. They felt way more on the same page, and they kind of dominated. Maybe fair to say.
Come on, just lead into it. They dominated. It is what it is. Like it honestly was a bit of a team diff. And really for me, like, okay, TWT did not play up to the level that MXS, like they needed to defeat MXS. Sure, okay, all things considered. TWT has shown serious improvement though. Like this, despite the results, like all things considered, TWT is playing pretty well. And on the other side of this book is like MXS, I'm not sure what is going on, but they have lost 9 out of the last 10 pistols. 9 out of 10 pistols. For if you ask any pro, it will tell you pistols are like 50. Probably the most 50-50 rounds in the game. You were either super unlucky to lose 9 coin flips in a row, or you're like, there's something that needs to be like revamped with the way they're approaching pistols, or like maybe the way that the things that they're buying on these kind of rounds, or like, I don't know, but losing 9 out of 10 is not a great look. And I feel like you kind of need every edge that you could get when you're starting to play like against, Oxygen, against, obviously they beat Oxygen last time, but you need like every edge you can get to like challenge them consistently, right? Like you cannot be losing every pistol and then playing M80. Like that's just tough. That's super. You're just playing uphill the entire time. It is super tough.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is promising for Moist X Shopify. Kind of if you look back on like Flya, Brock, for example, last season, they didn't come online until the later half, or really stage 2 essentially of last year. It's good to see them coming together now, especially with what people would consider a drastic change and taking your coach and throwing him in a player spot. All that together looking really solid. No one, you can say Mata stands out, but as a team as a whole, I would say they're up there with Auction as the tightest team play. Honestly, M80, it's so tough to call, but
it's really tough to call.
Very, very consistent looking, and I think consistency throughout the season is better than a few pop-off games here and there. And I'd rather them pop off as a team, and they're starting to do that. Hopefully,
I'd like to see them consistently win some pistols. Is what I would like to see.
Well, that would probably make these games would be. I mean, we would say they're
easier.
Yes, we could say dominating a lot more confidently if they have those pistols.
Oh, 100%. Dude, like you look at the scores, like you see 9-13, you see like 7-13. Like, okay, 7-13 is a little bit more of a sweep. 9-13 is like, okay, wow, that was kind of close. But then you look like, okay, they lost a pistol and that's another thing. They're losing so many bonuses. Like you cannot be losing pistols and the bonuses. That's just hard mode. And somehow they're winning the majority of the gun rounds though. So I mean, yeah, you're right. They are consistent in the gun rounds, but something is going on with their pistols and their anti bonuses, and they really need to iron that out ASAP. One final thing as well is like, dude, Mata's first kill, first death ratio is like shaping up to be one of the best right now in the league. And I mean, the kid kind of does it all. Like he's insane fragger, really good at opening up rounds, super communicative. He's the vibe merchant of the team. Like what more can the guy fill to like solidify himself as one of the best players in this league? You know what I mean?
Gonna have to win it, isn't he? It's really what it comes down to. He's just gonna have to win it. Is the unfortunate chip on his shoulder. Speaking of chips on shoulders, YFP, they definitely had one from last week. And unfortunately for them, it was Oxygen that they picked this week. Oxygen taking them down in 2-0 fashion. What a bounce back week for Dapper. And honestly, Vernos is kind of still that guy, isn't he? He is delivering in pretty much every aspect Oxygen need. And that's not even talking about the 3 other star players you can mention behind him. Scary stuff. Oxygen continue to look great.
Yeah, no, the one thing I really appreciate about Oxygen is like, you could have an off day if you're on the Oxygen roster because there are 4 other people that will easily pick up your slack. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they have so much to fall back on. I think that's what makes them kind of dangerous. But before we completely glaze the Oxygen, I do want to point out how close of a series that was between these two teams. Because the first map on Split was double OT. Like 15-13, barely winning the match. Barely winning it in double OT. And like, dude, Thief played like decently well. Like everyone's kind of playing decently well. But what really throws me off is like, okay, you look at the stats for that first map, and like, if you were to hide the scoreboard, I wouldn't be able to tell who won. Like,
yes.
Like, I would be like Oxygen clearly have won this. Like, it was like 13-5 or something. But then you look at like Thief, 110 ADR, Jonah, 109 ADR, Penny, 140 ADR. All of them are negative on first kills, first deaths. Like, literally every single player was negative on Split, and it was still double OT.
Still so close.
They must have been having like impeccable post plans or something. Or like something was definitely clicking for them. The only thing that sucks for YFP is like, okay, like, yeah, things are starting to click for you. You're starting to play a little bit better, but now you're kind of in a hole that we're going to be talking about, I'm sure, sometime real soon.
Yeah, it's getting scary. But kudos to Oxygen. YFP, very close. Interesting comps, by the way. Definitely leaning in more of the we're going to take the fights. We think, it's what we need to do at this point type of feel, especially the Rain-On Split. And then you see the Neon. Jeez, I was like, what agent is that? I haven't seen it in a minute. The Neon on Sunset. That's pretty kind of like old Sunset meta. I don't even know if it really came in a full meta, but definitely something that was run early on in Sunset. Cool
what is sort of interesting on Sunset is this sort of like evolution of the meta where people are leaning off info initiators and leaning more into the KO. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Would you consider Gecko as an info initiator? Like, for me, he's not like Sky or Sova or Fade, right? Like, yeah, you can get info with him, but I would just consider him like an initiator. I wouldn't really classify him as like an info initiator, right?
I mean, like, if we're making subcategories, to me, he's like a map control brawl initiator. Like he is hard setting up with clear util and flash util plus plant the spike.
Like in the same realm as Breach.
Yeah, I would say him and Breach are similar, but Gecko's more in your gunfights. I'd throw him in there. I hope we see more Gecko. We didn't see it this series. But
the KO solo initiator, we've been seeing a lot more often. KO Breach is starting to kind of pop up as well. Like that is such an interesting part of the meta, because are people just starting to realize, like, okay, we kind of have a good grasp on the game, so we don't need to crutch info initiators anymore, and we can lean more into the more useful utility. They're like, okay, we give up a little bit of info util, but we have much better utility to like brawl, re-clear space, like, you know what I mean? Like take sites, post plans. Like they have so much to work with in post plans. Like it's insanity. These comps are tough to deal with. KO
flashes are probably still the best flashes in the game? Question mark?
Yeah,
I would say so. The good ones, it feels that way. Yeah. So we'll see if the KO starts to get more Lotus playtime. Maybe we'll have some stats to show Gecko versus KO. That could be fun. Maybe next week. We'll see what happens. And we're on to the last day. It's M80 versus Winthrop University. And M80 doing what they do. It felt like they were just on a heater this week. And unfortunately for Winthrop University, they were on the receiving end of what M80 have kind of just been doing this whole season. You know what I mean? Just winning, really.
Yeah, no, shout out to Jerk, though. He really, Jerk and Infiltrator actually tried their damn best to get them past the finish line on the second map, because it did go all 24 rounds. Okay, first map, 13-1. Clean for M80. Lotus, 13-11. That could have been a third map series somehow, and we would be having a completely different conversation about M80's dominance in the league. But they still managed to defeat it. And afterwards, after the game, I saw a bunch of players posting tweets of like, oh, we got too careless. We're trying to end the game too fast. Like, I let this be a lesson. Nothing is free in Challengers. Literally nothing is free. Stay on your toes. Don't slack. Stay locked in, because anyone could take a map from you. And man, Jerk and Infiltrator, they tried their damn best. And not even just them, actually. Like, look at all their first kills on that map. Like 3-0.
Yeah, I was about to say,
3-0 for Jerk, 6-3 for Infiltrator, 4-0 for Aguchi, 5-0 for Nasi. Moobs went 0-3. Okay, that's fine. But like everyone else is like extremely positive. Like, okay, yeah, you can say you are not locked in if you're M80. But I mean, come on, you got to give some credit to the Winthrop University players, because I mean, you're beating some of the best players in the region. Like,
true.
You know what I mean?
And I think if a couple of those rounds, I'm assuming they had a lot of 5v4s, they converted one more of those, right? Who knows what happens to this map overall. Cool little matching comps, kind of brawl. See who's got the best. And I would consider this, honestly, maybe hot take. This, to me, is kind of meta on Lotus right now. The Omen, you know, the Fade, the KJ, the Viper, the Raze. I think it has everything you need, and teams that go out of that don't like that combination on this map. I think it's like the only two categories for me is like, either play this comp because it covers every checkbox, or you uncheck a couple boxes and check a couple ones outside, you know what I mean, and get a Breach.
Oh, yeah.
Or get a Gecko. And it's really cool to see these teams go head-to-head in the comp battle. I think, as you said, Infiltrator was just, it felt like all over the place, getting timings, taking every fight he wanted. Really, really cool stuff from them and promising. But unfortunately for Winthrop University, we're going to get to it in a little bit, in the hot seat coming into this week. And obviously, to round out last week, we had Core versus Thinking Men, a 2-0 from Core. Zeldris, now 2 weeks in a row, is starting to show up. He continues to destroy. But more importantly, if you go back and look at if you've been following the scene as long as Roy and I have, you go back and watch old Zeldris footage, he'd own people, but he'd always felt distracted, or there was always like something stopping him from progressing mid-rounds into something more for him. And I think the last 2 weeks, something has clicked, whether he's getting clear direction or he's just locked in. He's in the flow state or something, Roy, for those last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look distracted. He seems very clear-minded. You can tell if he gets a first pick, there's an instant reaction from him and his team. If he doesn't, he has to keep going. There's always next steps. And I think either the team has rallied around him to make it easy for him, or he's really stepped it up.
I also think, I mean, there's probably an element of the fact that he's probably just maturing as a person and as a player. Like, dude, the kid was playing since he was like 16, 17 years old. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously his kind of play style and like his decision making and his maturity, like, about overheating, how to play out rounds once you've secured advantages for your team. Like that stuff is going to continue, like it's going to continue developing. You have players like T-Dog and Ocean who are pretty like structured and like pretty discipline oriented. So I'm sure he's kind of starting to fit into that system. But man, we absolutely need to mention, I know this is a hot take, but this was, in my opinion, the best match of the week.
Oh yeah, no, that had
everything that we needed in a match. Like, it had good strategy, it had good ideas. There's a lot of pop-off players, a lot of pop-off rounds. 13-11 on both maps. Like, really the only negative takeaway, and this is a crazy negative takeaway, but the only negative takeaway for me in this match is the fact that neither of these teams looked like they knew what they were doing on attack side Ascent. Like,
weird how that worked out though, right? It was interesting. Yeah. And it still ended 13-11.
Right. Yeah. I think it's just like Thinking Men are playing the Viper comp, and you don't get that much reps against that comp, right? So it's like there's like an element of like, oh, let's throw off everyone. Everyone's kind of thrown off a little bit. But I mean, I say they didn't know what they were doing on attack. They just didn't get a lot of rounds. But they obviously had game plans. They had good ideas, but it just seemed like they were missing that little bit extra in terms of like how to close out the rounds to really like get themselves into a good scenario. But their defense was like unreal on that map. Deep breath. Okay. Zeldris, this is my final point before I'm going to nerd out one more time. Zeldris brought out the op so early on his defense side on Ascent. They actually did not know how to deal with it. And not only did he pull out the operator, Keith, he was playing the most awkward angles to like predict that he's going to be there. And he kept getting the opening kills. Every time he's in one of those awkward angles, like he would either be in an angle and peek it at an awkward timing, or it would be like, you think he's on this angle, but he's like a few pixels to the side. And he's just like, oh, Zeldris is here again, opping. Like, dude, he was doing an insane job just working the map with the operator. It was beautiful to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, great week. And if we normally do this where we say, hey, go back and watch this match. Normally it's of the top 3 big dogs. But I would say out of last week's matches, if you miss this one, it's worth a watch. You're going to come to appreciate paint, and you're also going to come to be like, oh, how do you shut down a Zeldris op on Ascent? I'm sure some teams are going to be watching that heading into the midseason cup, because that map's probably going to come up. And if he keeps playing like he is, his core team elevates to another level out of nowhere. So we know there's 3 teams who are in contention for relegation. There's only 2 relegation spots. That's Thinking Men, the Glazers, and Winthrop University. Roy, break down for me, how does this happen? What has to happen for who to get relegated?
All right, everyone. It is a kind of convoluted. I'll do my best, okay? So there's only one condition for Thinking Men to not be relegated, okay? Thinking Men will have to defeat TWT in a clean fashion. It needs to be a 2-0, and it needs to have like nice, clean, healthy lead. On the other side, the Glazers would need to beat Winthrop University, but it cannot be a sweep of a win. It has to be a little bit messy, and they need to lose a little bit of the round differentials. That is the only way. And then in that case, it goes to round differential. Thinking goes through, and then Winthrop and the Glazers from Group B end up getting relegated. Now, if Winthrop wins the match, the Glazers and Thinking Men are both immediately relegated. And then in any other context, so like if the Glazers win and it's very clean, then it is most likely Thinking Men and Winthrop who end up getting relegated.
Well, there we go. So let's just say the importance of the Glazers versus Winthrop, the final match of the day of the entire week 5 is
is it the last match?
Cinema. They're the last match.
Oh,
so it's must watch cinema. If Thinking Men, I mean, even if they win or lose, it's still super important. So make sure you tune in. It's gonna be a bit of a wild ride. Because even if Thinking Men lose, it's still between Winthrop and the Glazers, and the match still is important. So no matter what, watch that last one of this week. It's going to be really important. I can't wait for it. And let's just do a minute. Let's project ourselves into the future. Mid-season cup. You know what? Just for fun, Roy, let's do it right now. Just for fun. Give me your top 3 mid-season cup teams.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think that one's kind of...
All right, let's do top 4. That way we can.
I was going to say top 3.
Yeah.
The big 3 are the top 3. Like Oxygen, agreed. Moist, M80, uncontended top teams in VCL NA right now. For that 4th slot,
ooh,
it's tough. That is tough. I genuinely don't know. At first, I kind of doubted the Turtle Troop. Like, I didn't doubt it. I don't want to say doubt. We both discussed that Turtle Troop does have the recipe to be the top 4 team. Yep. They just didn't have the precedence or the tenure that they have any kind of like consistent results. But as of right now, they're sitting nice and clean at 3-1. If they close out their close out their last match of the week versus M80, then that's it. That proves that they're the top 4. I mean, even if they lose against M80, I would still think that as of right now, they're looking like a top 4 team. It is, it's just, it is what it is. They're just looking like the cleanest team right now. Obviously, things could change when the midseason cup happens. There are several weeks from the ending of this season when the relegations happen, May 6th to 7th, and then the midseason cup is happening around May 15th to 18th or 19th. So like that's a lot of weeks of practice going on in between all of that. Agreed. So these things could change, but I think as of right now, projecting where we are into the future, it's Moist, Oxygen, M80, not in any particular order, and then in 4th place it is Turtle Troop.
Okay, I agree with the top 3. I would be crazy to try to talk my way out of not justifying one of those being top 3. But I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to say week 5, we have SAD versus TSM. Match that doesn't really make a difference in relegation, makes a difference in the points you're going to get. And I think whoever comes out on top of that match is going to place 4th in the midseason cup. Yep.
Oh,
that's how I'm feeling. Because it's evenly matched teams. You know, they've had just an absolute run of a season. And I think them playing each other last is perfect to gauge where they're at, who's 3rd place in Group B. And I think just based on how Turtle Troop have looked, as great, as much as I want to see them thrive, going against M80, the last match, then you have to sit with that and stew with that for a couple weeks for the midseason cup. I think SAD or TSM, whoever wins their last match of the season, is going to get 4th.
Wow. Okay. I like that. I know. That is a great feeling, dude. I can support that. I can get behind that. I like
Perfect. That. Well, it's about that time of the show where we invite everyone in chat to join us in making our predictions for this week. Obviously, you're watching on Wednesday, and we'll just start right there. TSM, SAD, as I mentioned, whoever wins that, my opinion's taking 4th, which means I have to make a decision who's going to take 4th in both aspects. So I have to make that decision. Didn't click in my brain till now. And then Oxygen versus Core. So you know what? I will bear this burden then. TSM versus SAD. I am going SAD, which means SAD is getting 4th in the midseason cup. It's crazy. I just made both predictions right there. But there you have it. And then I'll even alleviate the burden for Core Oxygen. Auction. And you know what? As much as I want to pick SAD, you know what? Even for the drama, I'm picking TSM this week.
You're picking TSM?
Just you know what? Just for the drama, I'm picking TSM this week. I think that match is crazy to start off this week. By the way, you guys are in for a treat. I think this match might be the best of the week. Hot take, barring Glazers Winthrop, depending on the context.
Yes, that is.
So yeah, TSM Auction. There we go. Throwing that out there.
TSM Oxygen. Wow. Okay. I think I'm going to oppose respectfully.
Understood.
TSM is a great team, but I got to support the underdog. SAD is on a nice little, kind of clean streak. They're finding their footing. They're starting to sort of like the power up a little bit. Their power may be over 9,000. We're not sure, but I'm feeling SAD. I think they can make a run for it. I think they can prove everyone wrong. The little Zoomers could pop off. I'm going to go with SAD versus TSM. And then obviously Oxygen versus Core. I do think Core has a chance. There definitely is a chance. I'm not sure what that chance is. I don't think it's as low as we think, though. I think there is like a genuine world where like Core matches up nicely against Oxygen. Yeah. But it would have to be like Core's kind of playing super, super high on their spectrum, and then Oxygen's kind of playing on the kind of like the bottom of their gameplay, and they're getting really sloppy. Somewhere in that, if that formula makes sense. Sure. But I'm going with Oxygen for that one.
Okay.
And then since you led the first week, I'll
you keep rolling. Keep rolling.
All right. So next up, we have M80 versus TTR. I think for that one, I'm going to go
Moist with YFP.
Oh, Moist. Okay.
You can run it again if you want.
Let me restructure it because in my sheet I have it. That. Okay. So it is. So SAD TSM versus Oxygen Core.
Yep.
And then Moist
YFP and then TWT Think.
Okay. Think. And then it is M80 versus TTR and TG versus Winthrop University.
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and take us through the second week since you went first. For the first week, it is Moist X Shopify versus YFP for the first match of the day. Listen, as much as I love YFP, things are starting to click. I think it might just be a little bit doomed, especially with a tough matchup against Moist X Shopify. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Moist X Shopify for that one. And Thinking versus TWT for the spice, for the flavor, for the drama and the juice and the teas from all over the world, I'm going to have to choose Thinking versus TWT.
Ooh.
Not for anything logical, but just for the fact that it would just, the tension would just be too sweet not to have Thinking Men winning this one.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could go along with the plot, but I'm happy you are. So I'll be boring. I'm going Moist over YFP. Safe choice. And I'm going TWT. I think they had a rough week. I think they're going to bounce back. And I just want the drama between the Glazers and Winthrop to kind of be the focal point of the week. So why not just get there? Just cut right to it. And obviously Friday, we end with possibly the biggest match of the week, of the stage, really. I mean, you never want to go to relegation. But first, we have to get through M80 and Turtle Troop. We talked a lot of praise to Turtle Troop. We have. And sadly, I'm not going to back it up in my pick. I'm going to go M80. It's hard not to. They're 4-0. They're looking to go 5-0. Really tough to pick against them. And then the relegation match, the one, the only, the one to take it home. And I'm doing what I've done pretty much all season in my predictions. I'm going with the Glazers over Winthrop. I'm just a Glazer. It just is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think despite the record for the Glazers being 0-4 and Winthrop having at least one victory under their belt, I still think that the Glazers look better than Winthrop University overall. And I think they're a little bit more well-rounded. And I think that well-roundedness is going to give them the edge over Winthrop University. So I will agree with you. I'm also going the Glazers versus Winthrop University.
Perfect. And you're going M80, right?
Yes.
Sure. Okay,
yes. But
just want to make sure. You never know.
No, I respect that question, because if there is a team that's not Oxygen or Moist that is going to challenge M80, it has to be Turtle Troops.
Yeah.
Like that, like as of right now, as where we are currently in this present, right? Not in a future reality. In this present, if there is a team that is going to challenge M80, it is TTR. So I think that match, it will be pretty good to watch regardless.
Predictions are locked in. Let us know what you think about them. And that's this week. Hope everybody's ready for the matches that kick off. Starting soon.
It all comes down to this. Welcome everybody to the final week of Split 1 of VALORANT Challengers North America, presented by Zenny and Zippo. We've had 4 weeks already, but we're down to the last one, and things are gonna get messy for these last couple matches. We don't know who's gonna get relegated. We don't know who's gonna come up on top, but we're gonna all find that out in the next 3 days. I'm your host, Dryad, and today in the desk with me and on the casting booth is gonna be Wyatt and Gumpers, and you two. And Wyatt, first of all, I like that we're going with the chill matches today, because like I was saying, things are gonna get a little bit silly at the end.
Are they chill? I mean, maybe the second one is chill. I don't really think I'm gonna be honest, I don't think the first one is very chill, but the second one, chill.
Well, in terms of, they already made it. They're like in the mid-table, you know what I mean? Like, they're not relegated and they're not the best. So it's like, they're just playing to get a better place in the table, you know?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. The stakes are a little bit lowered. Like, if we lose, it's not, we're not, okay, I see what you're saying. But
that's the vision.
I do think the first game should be a lot closer than, I don't know, some people may think. I think it should be kind of a sick game.
Yeah, I agree, Gompers. And I think even when we were looking at the predictions, a lot of people are kind of going towards one side, but we'll get a chance to look at the group standings. And once you guys see how all of those matches are, you really don't know who's going to get on top, especially because, again, it is the last weekend and anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, we do have like both of our two major teams that we were expecting to be at the top. We have Moistek, Shopify, and M80 within both groups. But I would have to agree, Turtle Troop honestly putting on a pretty spectacular performance in terms of what the second group has to offer. I feel like here we've also been met with a lot of surprises in terms of what compositions start to look like, and the things that people are really starting to test out as well, and just trying to find what makes them different. So I'm pretty excited for today. I know the stakes are lower, that's why it said, but all at the same time, it's nice to see what teams are going to do about that and how they're going to approach the situation as well. Are we going to see new strats? Are we going to see the same thing we always have been, just settled down in people's pockets?
And let's take a look at the schedule for today's matches specifically, because we already kind of talked about it. We give you guys a spoiler of, who's going to be the favorite for those two matches that we have today. And Wyatt was saying, people are saying TSM, but you actually think SAD is kind of, and has been the dark horse for you, can have a good match here. And overall, I think even down to the last match is going to be so exciting. I think that might be the most exciting match of them all, because that's going to mean so many things on who's going to get relegated for that Glazers Winthrop. But I do really like the matches that we have, Wyatt, for today. I think, again, they're both of the matches, they're mid-table. They're not the teams that have been undefeated, but they're not the teams that are 0-4.
Yeah, looking at SAD versus TSM, I think the kind of, I don't know, like the conventional approach is, if you look at the TSM roster, they've got the experience, they have some of the bigger names and challengers, but on the SAD side, I think they have a pretty explosive style with unorthodox comps, a lot of fearlessness in how they play that could really catch off a TSM team that, at least as per last week against Turtle Troop, I thought were really lacking in coordination, and that could get exploited by SAD just being kind of a crazy team. like again, just like the fearlessness, the explosiveness, I could see TSM struggling to deal with that, with the team play not looking optimal.
There's just some teams that are really good at bringing and adapting to that kind of explosive play style. And there's some that, like you're saying, right, might really struggle. It can be the case for TSM today, but we're going to find out how that looks. And the reason why they're so explosive for this side of SAD is because of this team that they have, as we get the chance to take a look at how those two teams are going to look like. And you were saying, right, TSM, this is a team with names that have been proving themselves in different teams from last year to this year to the success that they found. And on the other side, SAD also has some names that are known in the scene, but it does feel like there's just getting to know who they are.
Yeah, for SAD Esports, you bring on a good point, too. I like the way you worded it. They are trying to get to know who they are. I feel like we've seen, on occasion, I would say around 3 maps, we've seen them change up their composition, even if it's something as slight as, I believe, their Ascent composition definitely looking a little bit interesting. They like to apply the Gecko. They like to apply things like the Reyna and really try to test out new things just because it's interesting, just because it brings out a new thinking style. And that's kind of the wavelength that SAD Esports is going to, which I really like. And it's new things like that make challengers interesting.
There's a lot of things to look forward to when it comes to this SAD team. And I know, Wyatt, you've been a fan of this team since day one. You've been talking about them. You've been making that prediction for them. And now when we get the chance to take a look at the matches that they've had, I feel like there's some that they should have won that they didn't win. But this is a good way to end up the split one, right? When you look at how they took a clean win against the Glazers, they took a kind of close fight against Winthrop. They've been showing us a lot of different flavors. So I'm curious to see how this series today is going to end up like.
For sure. Their loss against Turtle Troop as well. That was a loss to a Turtle Troop that was the week that they had turned things around and looked miles better than, I believe that was week 2 where they lost to Winthrop University, in the case of Turtle Troop, that is. And so even keeping that one pretty close and competitive against a team that I think is hitting their stride late in the season with a really stacked roster was still a solid result, all things considered. They had that one close map on Ascent against M80 as well, where they debuted that weird Yoru Brimstone Gecko Ascent comp that's weird as hell, but was totally caught M80 off guard. So I think there's a lot of positives to look at for this roster.
And on the other side, Gompers, we have a TSM that, very interesting enough, when you look at the teams that they won against and the teams that they lost against, it is actually the same as the teams that SAD won and lost against. So you have a pretty even matchup for today for that reason. The only real difference maker here is that the map that you were talking about, where SAD took a map off of Turtle Troop, and on the other side, TSM just lost it 2-0.
Yeah, it is that difference, which makes it feel like this is going to be a closer game. Man, and it's so weird because I would want to say that we would like go to a third map, that this is obviously going to be probably one of the most interesting series we've seen so far. But it's just so weird. It's like you see the normal side of Valorant is TSM, and then the weird side of Valorant is SAD Esports. And you're kind of like, you don't know at this point in time, like who to necessarily root for. I mean, I in this occasion, I did pick TSM just mainly because that strong composition that has been run so many times really always does end up winning the fight. And I would have to say it has such a big advantage over the others because there is that comfort, there is the evidence, there are the set plays that you don't have to test out, you don't have to find like SAD Esports are. So I feel like there's a little bit more solidarity when it comes down to TSM and the play styles they have set down.
They have been proving that the standard composition, they've been trying to learn it the best, and it's so difficult because we have a good amount of teams that are running the same compositions and being really good at them, as we have cases like M80 and Moist Shopify, right? But now, Wyatt, on the other side, when you look at SAD, they have something going on right now, and is that one of the points that I feel like they needed to bring up was their duelist performing to a higher level that they had been before, and Skarn was doing really good. When you compare Skarn to Sim just last week, it was actually Skarn getting the better stats.
Yeah, Skarn has had some really good performances. A little bit inconsistent, perhaps, but if that consistency can be taken up, I think even just a little bit, that roster has a really serious trio in Skarn, Bob, and Darkest. Like two fantastic initiators in Bob and Darkest to set up Skarn. And I think that's one of the things they've really excelled at. Skarn as well, when able to pick up the operator, has been one of the stronger op players in Challengers. So definitely a player to look out for. I don't think they've had the super breakout performance yet in any of these games. It's just been, like hovering around being solid. But I think any of these maps or matches could be the one where Skarn really takes over.
I have to say, Skarn is a super strong player. I loved seeing them and their performance down on, I believe it was Split, that I got a pretty good showing as to what Skarn is capable of. But I'm going to be honest, I think Sim doesn't necessarily get a lot of credit. They don't top frag as the duelist majority of the time. A lot of the time, it really does seem like stats-wise, there might be better duelists out there, but they apply themselves so much when it comes down to those first frags and the initial entries, which goes unnoticed. It's just pushing themselves onto sites, getting those first bloods, and then just opening things up for the team to really apply that pressure and then continue things along, which I am interested to see Sim continue to do in this game as well.
I feel like Sim, though, has been getting a lot of credit because he was the number one, and I'm pretty sure continues to be the number one opper compared to any other duelist. And that's a pretty big stat, right? But we need to see how those are going to shape up, especially with the way that Skarn has been looking better and better. I think is going to be making it very exciting. Now, let's take a look at the maps, because if we're talking about these duelists, we're talking about the operators, maybe. That might be one of those points that guarantee if we're going to be seeing those or not. And Wyatt, we got the maps. We're going to be going to Split, Breeze, and to close it out, maybe an Ascent.
SAD have definitely made a bit of a name for themselves with the different compositions that they've been running. These maps, though, Ascent aside, they play the pretty standard meta stuff on Split and Breeze, as do TSM. So if we get to Ascent, we'll see the craziness from SAD, but not going to be the case on these first two maps. And on the operator point, not massively influential on Split, but on Breeze can definitely be a huge deal. And Sim and Scar, expecting them both to pick it up pretty frequently on defense, so long as, the economy's in the right place.
I feel like when it comes to the operator for these two, especially for Sim, as I mentioned, the best operator that we have, it seems like we're going to go from least to a lot of operator as we get to that map of Ascent, where we've seen him play with this operator and where he's able to shine a little bit most. You can definitely see Gompress that structure that they have around it. But it's time to go into the agent select. Let's see if there's going to be anything new. When we've seen crazy stuff, it has been for SAD. We do expect it to stay that way for the most part. And as you look at the compositions, they do look exactly the same. We're going to be running this double controller with the Omen and with the Viper, that single duelist Raze, and that support for that initiator with the Sky. So I do like this mirror match between TSM and SAD Esports, a big matchup that you expect it can get close. And Casters, I leave it to you.
Thank you so much, Dan. TSM versus SAD Esports, two teams that are currently in a 2-2 right now. So when we're looking at those statistics, I guess the biggest letdown for both of these teams is just losing 2-2 and now having to go 2-3. And I mean, really just trying to see who's going to be able to make that step up.
Yeah, this TSM team, they haven't actually played Split yet, I believe, this entire run. SAD, on the other hand, they have played it previously in the qualifier and against the Glazers, whom they've beaten. But yeah, on the point with the comps, I mean, this is, the comp that Sentinels have been running, that they won Madrid with. It is just pretty much the best meta comp at this point, in my opinion. Cypher is so strong on this map, so it's really going to come down to who's just, I think, going to be playing the best team play game, the best fundamental game here.
Yeah, with the fundamentals too. Obviously, somewhat of a mirror matchup as well. I believe 100% of a mirror matchup as well. So really just who can apply themselves the most in a game like this one. I know we did make that similarity with Skarn and Sim. Who can take that extra step up as a duelist? I mean, I'm already seeing, the possibility for Skarn to take up some of that space mid. And I mean, maybe a quick outskirt first-hand engagement from TSM as well.
Unlucky. Trying to throw the poison cloud over to the B site in a position that'll allow a walk-up for that player in B main. Darkus hits it that time. And then meanwhile, quite passive around the map elsewhere. Just cam to spot out A.
Yeah, not necessarily catching anything, but wall goes up, and it gives a hint of an idea as to what this team wants to push for. Sim and Poi still set up down in heaven, and the moment that this erupts, yeah, gonna be perfect. Still no paint shell left down, and even with that information just given away freely for who might be down in the A site, 56 seconds left as well, and so much util expended. Possibility for that covert though, first-hand pick, and maybe a second. Beautiful. Set off the pistol round, but he just keeps going. 3K already off the start from SAD Esports, and it's looking good.
Yeah, essentially from this point on, surely no way that they can lose this round. A really nice contact push up there from SAD, just feeling no utility pressure from TSM whatsoever, taking advantage of the space that they were able to take for free there. And now even just playing it safe, rotating to B. Some great decisions so far in this pistol round. And of course, Darkest, he's always going to shoot the bodies. He's every game I've watched of SAD, there's at least 3 moments of the Darkest disrespect.
10 seconds left.
Probably the biggest troll to be set out there for sure. SAD not feeling too sad down in that first round. That was beautiful. I mean, a lot of that work really put into Covert, but the fact that they didn't actually act off that information off the get-go from TSM, pretty surprising.
And now gonna full buy up. We'll see if TSM opt to really go for anything. If you're playing against SAD, would highly recommend not purchasing on the second round. They are one of the teams that is just so partial to the outlaw buy. Darkest specifically really likes picking that weapon up.
All right, Bob can't seem to actually get anything, but I like the one-way, gives Greymon some space to try to move themselves up. But again, confidence kind of exuding from this team of SAD. They won that first round. Yeah, already looking miles better with anti-flash left from Zostal. So it's spectacular. Oh, already big push from TSM. Yeah, but not much profit off of it as well.
They're really convincing so far. Bob is going to clear the rest of the space with the dog. And it was Bob last week. Put up a sick performance for SAD as well, thinking back to against M80, a team that's arguably the best right now in Challengers. Bob was dropping like 25 on them, I want to say, in a map that they were losing. It's really just been so impressive this season. No doubt one of the best initiators that we've got in the Challenger scene.
Yeah, sitting on the outskirts from TSM, just looking to find one pick to run away with here, especially on the exit frags, but it's not going to happen. Coburg's coming for you. Yeah, time and time again, honestly, yeah, just hitting headshots. Like, how do you just continue to do that? And then you get another Zenny Flawless on top of it as well.
This Coburg with the Ghost right now. I swear that when you're hitting headshots with the Ghost, that's... nothing looks smoother in this game, I swear. At least I'm partial to that. But all right, SAD are gathering up all outside of A right now. It looks like you're going to see that double satchel from Skarn go up to ramp pretty quickly. Nade for Heaven as well. Sky Flash going to come through off the back of that. We'll see if maybe they can find a first pick here, win this bonus.
And I like that, actually limiting some of the space led up towards Heaven, so you can't fight that. All you can do, throw a pain shell, maybe get one, but a nice spray through down in Heaven just leaves this team exactly where they want to be. TSM a little bit more space than before, and actually holding off on that entry.
They're really only fighting through main initially are SAD, so it's not too tough for TSM to just post up, spray through that cage, and find a first pick.
Yeah, Wall's going to go down soon, though, so that kind of exposes SAD just a little bit, slowly working themselves up. Sim goes down, and Darkus doing good work at watching the extremities as well. So all you can do, fight Heaven, maybe take something with you. But it's Coburg with another headshot to add on. Beautiful exit coming through from GMD. But you still got a 1v1 situation. Of course, being sighted as well. Zostal knows where Seven's going to be approaching from, though it doesn't matter. Headshot laid down from TSM, and that's first round on the board.
TSM swinging for each other pretty well there. Poise peeks out, but just eats that Marshall shot. Well done from Bob. Seven, though, at the very end, has really been impressing me on this Cypher role. Last week, despite losing to Turtle Troop, was really one of the players keeping them so much in that game. It was Seven and GMD who've really been excellent this entire season. And with Cypher being so good on this map, could certainly see him take over on this defensive side. They're about to hit his site again.
Taking a surprising interest to the A site, all the while getting shut down ever so slightly, though. TSM getting ready for a pop flash let out from Seven. Beautiful shots already with some of that information being gathered, and this is perfect. Ultimate's already laid down. SAD Esports not struggling as much as you would think they would with everything that has been set down from TSM, so now there has to be some sort of retake here.
TSM were just trying to swing so fast for each other, but SAD had every angle covered. Late Seekers coming in to spot out both players.
Yeah, they might have just spotted that, though. Yeah, GMD taking down the backside, but a 2v2 situation. Right-hand side already really given out, but the paranoia makes things harder. Nice approach from TSM, really using everything within their pockets for that one.
Yeah, the late paranoia was really nice from GMD, just able to isolate the fights at the very end there. And I mentioned him in the pre-round, but GMD has really been outrageous this season. If there's someone I trust in a late round 2v3 for TSM to bring things home, it is definitely him.
Yeah, they've had
been crazy this past 4 weeks.
Yeah, they've had some pretty nice performances, whether that be like, I think I saw them with like 12 plus assists one time on the Omen, and around like 21 plus kills. So yeah, they do not like to play around.
SAD going to be forced on the eco here. 2 rounds where they've done a nice job entering into the site, watching the proper angles, catching out the TSM players' swings, but those late rounds just not going their way. The 1v1 that's 7-1, 2 versus 3. they're making the right decisions, but if they can clean up those moments at the very end, could certainly see them getting a number of rounds on this attack half.
And slightly greedy there, especially after taking in their first. But a Proto follows up pretty nicely. Still a trade-off to be made from Sad. Not much to take away from that, though. Still down to that 3v4. Nade popped out, trying to corner Zolstol. But it doesn't matter, yeah. GMD having to make that reposition, trying to fight this off, especially, and finding one as well. Beautiful shots, but still getting pretty heavy up there, especially with the smoke now placed. Yeah, reposition goes good. It doesn't even matter. Seven's just right behind that as well.
Weapon here.
A lot of swings from TSM there. They are really playing these situations aggressively, or if someone's taking a fight, they're just gonna send it. And in that situation, honestly, it felt like they were just a little too eager to close out the round. Perhaps took a little bit more damage than they should have. We'll see where their economy ends up here. It's not going to be the best. It really could have been in a better spot. Sim is going to take this opportunity to buy up the operator. And we talked about that at the pre-show. One of the guys who's really buying that weapon frequently, finding a lot of value with it on defense. So we'll see what they're going to do with him here. Have him post up in mid.
Surprisingly huge amount of mid control. Flash, oh, they don't even see up top! They just let Zolstol make that space of Proto, of course, taken out, but Skarn finding a 3K on their own. GMD slowly working themselves up, but then there is potential for a refrag ballot. Happens to make something happen. 2v1 situation. Of course, Bob low enough to the point where this isn't as concerning, but still up to 7 to make a clutch.
And he did it once before. Certainly could imagine him doing this again, given how weak Bob is right now. Might end up walking into this double face, though, and does.
Not the way thought things were going to end, but yeah, I mean, when worst comes to worst, that's a pretty good solid hold, in my opinion.
Yeah, certainly not expecting that. It looked like he thought there might have been a Heaven rewrap coming in, could keep their eyes on B-Man. Not expecting that at all. Sad, pretty heads up there. And you can see now TSM getting over-eager in that previous round, dropping so many guns, investing on the last one. Economy completely crushed here. Sad with a chance to take the lead.
And you go from such an aggressive, initial start towards mid to something potentially slower. Oh, and that's beautiful. They actually baited out this team to their own demise as well. So GMD down. Now Sim, the only one with a Vandal in hand, to try to keep this round together.
TSM are really trying to force things here now off the showstopper. You can see those defensive players backing up. They don't want to eat that rocket, and it's going to allow Sad to get this entire site for free. We'll see where they plant the spike here. Yeah, they're trying to get in the corner, slightly delayed by the nade. That's going to give TSM some time to rotate. Maybe go for a fast retake.
Yeah, huge too, because Coburg still has some of that space down in mid to take up as well. Now, just repositioning themselves, still waiting for the push to come down towards backside to fight this one out, but as well as something happening up towards Heaven. Coburg finding the space and getting taken out by Sim. Tons of information just arrive as they try to keep the site under lockdown, but it's up to Zolstol. 2v2 situation poised with, of course, just the judge in hand, and even then a crosshold being held just within Garage. Not enough time to try to pull together some sort of strategy. Yeah, 3K left over. So Zolstol doing a pretty good job at cleaning things up.
Yeah, and certainly not at that range. TSM are really just overplaying these rounds, in my opinion. Unnecessarily so. Last time, that operator round, they just opt to push down mid with it. Which, listen, that's a really risky, aggressive line, especially Sad they didn't even know they had an op yet. Can certainly play passive on that round. Just hold down one area of the map, stack elsewhere. The last one, GMD just wants to face so desperately out of B main. Sad now, though, they have the Seekers. Looks like they're going to go for a full A push off of them.
And this is nice, too, because they're still trying to catch a rotation out of B site. While this is all happening, 7, though, having Cam available to try to watch if anybody tries to walk out of that wall space. So more of a retake scenario here. Down on 8, leaving Poise by themselves.
Poise going to be in trouble. At least does have the 2 trips to play off of, though, that 7 has given him in the site.
Poison orb emitting.
Beautiful seekers to start. That gives away pretty solid information. 7 as well as poise being given away to the opposing side. Sad having to find some sort of entry in, but of course pop flash out and not a lot of help. GMD coming in a bit too late, but still finding one of their own. So the numbers diminishing on both sides. 3v3. They're still up to that 4-3. Sad needing this round to keep themselves up above the lead. I mean, if it can happen.
Bob, one flash to play with, sends it out. It's all going to be about the Sad crossfires now.
Yeah, still the paint shell set down to try to back these players off. But there's not a lot of zoning going on. Sim's still left up in heaven. And information not given away. Nobody knows. Darkest now. Of course, understanding that there might be somebody just on top. But Scar picking off the fights. 41 health left on 7. And Scar not that much to play with either, but it still happens in regards to TSM. Beautiful 4-4.
7 again, just keeping them in this game. 2 1v1s that he's had to step up.
Yeah.
Wins them both. Really playing so well this season. Sad they have been doing a great job of getting into the sites. TSM's aggressive swings are just getting shut down every single round. But on the late rounds, 7 has just stepped up. I mean, Sad are just struggling to close these out, but despite that, keeping things even on split attack, 4-4. Not so bad so far. They're going to take this time out, though, with their economy having been crushed off that round loss.
Yeah, he's had so much, 7 has had so much impact just playing off the util alone. And it's been pushing Sad back pretty heavily. There isn't a lot that I could say that would be, you know, the Sad Esports definitely still fighting back in regards to that, but pretty difficult to play against 2 pretty solid players on the side of TSM with, I mean, GMD and 7 really fragging out.
TSM have just at no point slowed down with these aggressive peaks. Yeah. And now midway into this game, going up against an eco, I want to see if they kind of make that mistake here. I'd much rather them play a slow round here. Just close things out with superior guns in a methodical way, but at this point I kind of don't trust them to do so. I'm worried that they're going to take aggressive peeks, run into some of those close range guns or a sheriff on the angle, and just drop players kind of needlessly. I hope to see them play a pretty, honestly, just methodical, kind of slow round here, close things out with the advantage.
Might be the case. Actually, no, setting up for a pretty aggressive takedown in mid. Skarn knows as to where a Proto might be hiding. GMT making a shot to make sure they're not her, but yeah, cover's blown. I would leave the situation as well. Still up to Sad, though. So much space just taken up down in mid.
Pretty good information for the Sad side, given they heard 2 players on the ropes there. There was the smoke down A. They're definitely feeling the presence. And I like this from TSM. They've already picked up 2 players on stairs. Dog to re-clear. But Poise just pushing through the negative info from the Dog allowed Darkest to set up on the line. Opening pick now. Crucial round for TSM to close this one out. Now their economy is in trouble of being shattered.
Good covert. Made the move to give away their position. Actually keeping 2 players down on the A side. So this is beautiful. So much map control on the side of Sad Esports, just needing to find themselves up towards B. But we talked about 7. And of course that trip, that's been a problem so far.
And look at how spread now TSM are on the map. I'm dwindling for Sad though. 30 seconds. They left 2 players in B main. They're gonna go for a split here, it looks like. Unless, I mean, they're almost debating, do we go back to A? Time is so low though, that is the main worry. And they're gonna have to deal with GMD, back site.
Oh, and the paranoia is still there. Even then, 13 seconds left. They need to use 1 set of their util to keep this team back. Yep, already said and done. They found the other, and the Viper as well, but Darkest enough time to get the plant down. And honestly, their own territory as well. So even though it's a 2v3, it still might work for the best for Sad.
Massive gun advantage, though, for TSM. So still not able to recover a rifle. Does at least pick up the Stinger. All right, Darkest was able to find that Bulldog within the Viper's pit. Sim might have the perfect timing here, though.
Oh, and they found it. They knew that there was not a wall there. Sim doesn't even need sight to see. They just used a pretty huge sort of game sense there, leading TSM to that first-hand lead. So 5-4. Big difference now. Sad having to bring themselves back up.
Well done closing that out from TSM. Can't help but feel that Sad really overthought that round post getting the entry pick. They were working B main, trying to work mid, but then also at the same time, they still had Coburg on A who was getting space, and they were almost paralyzed by options. And when they finally picked one, there's 20 seconds left in the round. So TSM able to close things out with some disarray in the Sad calling. Able to buy up though, however. No ultimates in play, and Sim with that showstopper online.
Yeah, leaving the smoke up, huge lack of information.
Poison's off.
Proto not actually listening into those jiggle peaks as well, so nothing known on either side, but a huge workup from Coburg here.
Weary of any TSM players peeking on the A side, or perhaps jump spotting from elbow or screens is Coburg. Well, just trying to slowly take mid or Sad, working around this poison orb. Deep flash into male, Sim versus Coburg. Important first fight! Bad timing on the scope, and Coburg able to find the first ultimate popped as well. Look at the rest of Sad. They were in B main. They know that the site is essentially free. Just have to work around those trips.
They've left everybody else to just move while Seven holds the site on their own, but even then gets taken out the trips. Not of too much importance, so that leads to a huge rotation that gets shot out. Even then Coburg left alone, but that leads to a huge flank that could, be honestly big potential there. So they'll reposition themselves to find better ground. Proto's gun getting found out right before the peak. And this leads to better circumstances. Unfortunately not for TSM. Poised, backing themselves off, leaving the Phantom in their hand. Unfortunately, economy not looking too good.
TSM getting so disconnected in that situation. GMD trying to work back on A to pick up Coburg. In the meantime, Seven felt like he had to make a play and actually anchor in B. He went back into the site after initially retreating when that hit was coming out of main. And TSM just, no one really playing together there, and it's going to be their demise. But massive credit really goes to the beginning of the round for Coburg. Finding that pick, got his ultimate online, pops it, gets all the info for his team. And so I'd take full advantage of that.
5-5. Pretty back and forth. Honestly, just finding themselves the site for retake each and every time. TSM have been putting up a fight when it comes down to retaking that site, making it even harder for Sad to do anything about it. So interested to see how we continue things along, especially with 3 players already surrounding themselves down in mid.
Coburg gonna put up those lurk cages over in A main and towards ramp, and in the meantime, you have that Viper and Bob, the initiator of the sky, working into B main, so some good early map control. Cam spotted out as well. Dark is gonna break that, nullify some of the info gain for TSM. Pretty good opening here for Sad.
Oh, the jiggle peak coming through from Darkest. So beautiful. Showstopper. TSM already on to a good start. They take out that main controller. Now leaving it up to, a lot of that work being down for Zostal. So blocked off immediately. 54 seconds left. Having to make a move.
Great rotation from TSM. You can see GMD and Poise got to the A site right away. They felt like, all right, we made that pressure in B main. We found that pick. Sad are probably just going to try to push up and take A now. So aware of that. That is the case. And it's going to come down to the 2 of them to anchor this site.
Oh, he's just right below. Scar, no. Okay, absolutely they do. That leaves the paranoia out of the way for Poise to play with, and now running away, trying to find themselves some sort of safety. That's huge for Sad to find themselves the site. Now the question is the retake going to work better than that, honestly? Especially now space being taken up by Bob. Potential for a 1v1 situation. The fight isolation happening perfectly in the hands of Sad. So honestly, now it just leaves up to the 2 players, and paranoia set down. So much util just being utilized here on the side of Sad Esports to keep this team back.
Yeah, that paranoia just going to further delay, blind them up. They know they have to deal with Bob in the back line, and she's just going to be bothersome, just going to survive.
Yeah.
And TSM, check the state of the economy. Multiple players on $0. They have to save these guns at this point. And Sad know it. They're going to hit the gas on them, try to take them away, and have a full anti-eco for this final round.
They're chasing them down. This is beautiful. A game of cat and mouse, though. Proto runs away with one regardless. Lead given back over to Sad. But that was, again, a nice approach to a round that really could work in favor for anyone. TSM, economy-wise, just, wow, not looking good.
GMD and Poise, I mentioned that they made that fast rotation to A, expecting the hit, but just negligent of their lack of info in heaven, which Sad fully exploited.
I'll take everything from them.
It's been a pretty hard game to play. Now Bob actually pulling out the op for the last round.
The Bobberator?
The Bobberator is so perfect.
Look at that TSM buy with the damage on that last round, with Sad hunting down those players, taking away the guns. They have 3 sheriffs. Their best weapon is a Guardian, and oh my god, Bob, with the op on attack, just expecting these peaks from TSM, which they've been doing all game. It's just a great counter to it. Now they can work off that man advantage.
Op shots still being heard. B-site completely cleared up, making an assumption here from TSM that they can wrap this around, find some sort of set play, but Coburg still stuck down in mid. Of course, GMD finding an engagement off that alone. Now, of course, leading this up to that 4v4, so potential there.
Yeah, Coburg dealing with that push down in mid, telling the rest of the team, all right, it's time to go B off that, and they do. Look at this aggressive positioning now taken by Skarn and Zostal. Paranoia as well, unable to find the timing for the kill. These are some good post-plant setups though, Bob with the re-wrap, again, perfect timing.
Perfect timing and beautiful read, to be completely honest with you. SAD Esports, knowing this team was pushing for that rotation at this particular moment, just based off the info off that pick coming through from Coburg. Now Zostal finding shots of their own, and Bob just looking to clear things up. 7-5. Nice round from SAD to keep themselves in the game. Now, of course, switching sides. So, yeah, they put in that work and effort into the attack, but how are they going to handle things once we start to swap things around?
And frankly, you have to ask and kind of question, how many rounds would SAD have gotten in this game if it weren't for 7 clutching twice? Those 2 rounds from 7 have absolutely kept TSM in the game. This would have been a blowout half. I mean, minimum 9-3, right, if he loses those. So can't give enough credit to him, and GMD finding impact kills. Really, I feel like it's been the same story for TSM in the games all season. It is that duo of GMD and 7 that are really finding massive impact, keeping these guys in the games in crucial moments.
Yeah, still left alone though. 7 looking for more space, if anything, or even so information off that flank. Switching sides, interestingly enough.
And so SAD have opted to just leave Coburg with the Cypher set up on B. Zostal spot for mid, and it's going to allow the rest of the team to play towards A here. Dog onto Darkus, gonna get stunned, but Poise can't really punish. Got the molly down in time. But with Poise getting that information, seeing the push, it's gonna trigger the rest of TSM to go into B. A lot of pressure on Coburg.
Sitting down in the back of sight, and the one way is not necessarily doing too much work now, especially with Poison Orb, but huge off GMD to find the first initial shot, but it's up to Coburg now, and we've seen Coburg with the pistol. It is unstoppable. Again, headshot after headshot, just continuing. You cannot give Coburg a ghost.
That is outrageous. TSM double peek him, and he gets both picks. That's both pistol rounds now. I think he has a combined 7 kills for both of them.
Spike down.
TSM should have absolutely had that round locked up. They got the entry pick as well. Wow, stepping up massively. The rest of the SAD players flooding in as well at the right time. And now TSM are in some pretty serious trouble here. Sim is going to buy for the Sheriff, try and get an entry pick off that.
Okay, Smoke, interesting. That's also... Oh, they saw the leg. They know Sim is there. Is that enough information? Of course, they did try to follow up just a bit in mid, but didn't find as much either.
Now that is a cheeky smoke. Don't see that too often. It just had that little gap in the lower left to see if someone crossed. Pretty neat. Not a smoke that you typically deal with there.
Now, but still keeping some space in mid. They're watching this like a hawk for SAD Esports. You know, at any point in time, it could happen. Of course, smoke being set down. Darkest knows they might be attempting to push. So then there goes Snakebite. Looking to place that down whenever. Sim giving themselves away. 40 seconds left, and majority of the players just still sitting down in mid.
Skarn gonna get up close there in heaven with Darkest swinging off of the rafters, just jiggling that, getting the info, gonna try to bait, draw attention away from Skarn. Finds the first. Molly cuts off the rest of TSM, and with 20 seconds remaining, running into 4 players here on the B site. Stat should close things out with these.
Run and gun is the name of the game. Yeah, already Skarn is just having a great time. But SAD Esports looking pretty solid the first 2 rounds. Of course, now kind of an uneven bye, you know, within the second round. So picking themselves back up as TSM. I like it. I think definitely Coburg making a dent into the damage of TSM.
Absolutely. We were talking about it earlier, how much the Cypher can really take over on this map. But really, for me, the standout point for SAD has been their fundamentals. On attack, always holding the angles for each other properly when TSM swung. And now in defense, those crossfire setups, at least so far, it's only been the first couple rounds, but they were looking good. They were looking sound to shut down that anti-eco.
Haven't hit A yet, so definitely looking a little bit more towards that, especially with 7 still kind of keeping in tune with the information. Well set there as well for some space to be taken up towards heaven. So the question is, where is this hit going to start to reside?
The TSM made so much noise in B main, and now they're going to try to all gather up A, but 7 never pushed up, so they don't really have any space here. They don't have the info. And they're going to be walking into a little bit of a stack here. 3 players for SAD.
Already Skarn takes the first, and now Pain Shell laid down to try to push this team back, but is it enough? Skarn, though, still watching. And it doesn't matter. TSM, they've taken in majority of the players here. 3v3 scenario, and of course, Vandal still left in hand. Coburg can't do much anymore with the Ghost. You're kind of left wondering what this team is going to do. TSM taking down one by one.
30 seconds left.
Into the hands of SAD Esports, and it's surprising. You have a save round initially, and now they just pull together anything they can. Watching across, playing off contact, GMD peeks the corner, but even then not having the spike in hand.
Darkest finds a good timing before that smoke was fully bloomed. Finish things off with the Ghost again. This team, they just have the Ghost demons, evidently. But SAD with a good defensive setup on A. Really the crux of TSM's issues there, coming from the fact that they made all of that presence on B early on. So much noise, but they didn't actually take any space on A at the same time. 7 didn't really work up, and SAD were just able to get right back into positions, those close spots, that paranoia for Skarn to play off of. This, at the moment, SAD have really just been displaying a better level of team play than TSM on this split map.
It's been a lot, harder. I feel like here especially, it kind of sets the tone for how SAD Esports wants to play, and the fact that they ran away with that third round is pretty major. Now it leaves TSM in a terrible spot, economic-wise. Yeah, and stress levels definitely getting higher as well as time goes on.
Yeah, taking this time out, IGL poised, definitely going to be feeding some ideas here to the team. Certainly no lack of experience from him. He's been IGLing in really solid teams in Valorant for, I think 4 years now, since really the beginning of the game on Dignitas, I want to say. So yeah, no lack of experience from that man. Take the time out. This round they're going to be on the eco, bunch of sheriffs, couple stingers, just making sure they have enough to buy next into the full rifle round. Going to try to work mid with 4 players once again. Something they did a couple rounds ago when they were on an eco previously. Darkest once again going to be watching this from Mail, just trying to slow things down with a molly.
Shots fired, though not running away with anything just yet. GMT, off the timing alone, makes a pretty good call. Still looking for more, though. Vandal not in hand. They tried to push up, maybe gain some control. But of course, it was a pushback from Skarn that leaves this team with absolutely no Vandal to play with, but 2 now for a possible pickup as well. So space still being taken up. Nice retrieval from Zostel. They're still left with nothing on the side of TSM.
3 versus 4 right now. Of course, the gun's still in the favor of Sad, but making the mistake are Sad. Really just kind of contact re-clearing. Zostel at least making it work on A. Paranoia is going to be really nice, though, for Bob to swing out of screens off.
Oh, and they TP'd. The timing on that is absolutely impeccable. Though Pop Flash left out 56 health and a wraparound from Bob. They do have a Trailblazer to utilize. There's 17 seconds left. They know they just need to keep this plant from happening. Of course, Trailblazer comes out and it leaves some information for Coburg and Bob to play with, but still, though, potential there. But Proto does not get the shot.
1 HP.
Yeah, big run away from Bob.
Jeez, mate.
What a great job anchoring the site from Bob. And the paranoia value that Zostel has found in this map has been so good. That paranoia down in main just allows Bob to find a timing to rotate out of screens, fight back sight. Found that first pick. Things were looking bad for Sad as well. I really think they overfaced there in mid, just trying to re-clear for info. But then their play late round was just so sound. Really well done. Of course, they did have the gun advantage, though. TSM now going to be able to get that full buy.
And now setting down.
Cage trigger.
I mean, a potential for space to be taken up. The wall not doing too much of a favor on the side of Sad. They lacking a ton of vision in terms of how they want to play this. Zostel still prepped up, waiting for this push to happen.
TSM just playing things slowly on A, trying to get some space contacting. The dog is going to... I'm not sure if it's spotted 2. Was broken. Skarn picks up the angle on the box. Great for shutting it down. 7 on the trade. TSM just going for fights across the map at this point.
Oh, and this is huge. Bob does a wraparound. Actually, a Proto doesn't know what's happening, but they still manage to pick things up. And now the Seekers just to push out as well. Only 1 player on the side of TSM just left down alone on the A site. Now, especially with Bob trying to find poise. I mean, this might be a fight. That's one out.
You're joking.
Spike just laid down, and it's 3% Esports again. 12-5 with a huge struggle from TSM.
I know how this
Bob's skill on display this entire season. 20 for 10 right now. Oh my God, just incredible performance here on this defensive side, winning these rounds out, perfect timing. And Sad, they are just exploiting these disconnected rounds from TSM with solid fundamentals. Again, there you could just see the poise was so far away with the spike, even though players were in sight, and Sad are taking full advantage of every little mistake made.
Okay, Skarn is not here to play, and this might be perfect. So many players, but they can't see. Even then, they push themselves around and try to fight the backhand side, but it's up to Bob now, especially as they surround themselves up in heaven. Zostel finding one of their own, and it's Sad Esports that might just be able to close things out in a beautiful 13-5 fashion. GMD not willing to give up just yet, and still not able to find the last. It's Darkest to close things out, and a huge 13-5 win coming through from the side of Sad Esports.
That was so well played from Sad. They really capitalized on every mistake that TSM were making. Their fundamentals were so solid on attack. Every swing that TSM were going for, which there was a number of aggressive swings from them, all of the angles were just being properly watched on the executes from the Sad players, which was really nice to see. And then on defense, the setups were just really sound. TSM couldn't crack them. Big difference in the team play on that one. And also, I mean, at least on the individual side too, you have to give massive credit to Bob for stepping up on defense. Coburg with the pistol rounds. And, on the other side, there's some credit to be given too. Like GMD had a few really solid rounds, and 7 with those 2 clutches kept them so in the game on the first half. But yeah, solid win for map 1.
Spectacular plays coming through from both sides. But then again, that's only the first map of the first series. So please, guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more Challengers.
Two agent on an island. Okay, let's think about this. So,
I'm trying to think. That's tough.
I take Brimstone for the muscles. He's gotta he'll take over. You'll build us a shelter and all that, and then Sage for the healing, just in case anything goes wrong. I don't know, maybe you get in a fight with an animal. I'll take Sage. Sage and Brimstone, why not?
Sage, in case I get injured. And I feel like Brim would be a handy, man. I don't know. Oh, wait, no. Oh, shit. Alright, can I take my answer back?
Bruh. Maybe Jet and Brimstone, because I feel like Brimstone can cook it up, and I feel like, Jet maybe can just updraft and carry us, away to safety.
I'd say Omen. Just TP off the island. Just get off the island, Didn't even think about that for a second, yeah.
See, that's a good pick. Don't lie, that's a good pick. Sage, and then maybe Killjoy. Because Killjoy, she could be, if we wanted to get off the island, make a little TV, television, antenna, radio, and we out. That's it. That's wraps.
I need someone to protect me first because I'm not very jacked yet. I need to go to the gym a bit more. So let's bring Breach. And the last one, I need Jet so she can fly and find something for me. She can fly, double updraft. Well, I guess not anymore. But single updraft, see what's going on around here. And maybe she can find something for me. Yeah, I would say Jet and Breach. Big protector and a scouter.
Sky, or her info and gathering. There might be critters and stuff on the island, so use the dog. Maybe Deadlock for shelter, and just have her sound sensor for protection.
I'm probably gonna pick Sky, because Sky has the heal, has a dog that you can play with, has birds that are pretty fun to play with probably. And then second one, probably Yoru. I don't know why. Yoru's Japanese, I'm Japanese. Might have a conversation with him. Like to see his abilities in person, so probably those 2.
Sage, because, I gotta take some risk. And who's better to heal me up, give me a good res if I go down, And then the second agent is Omen, because just TP me out of there, bro. Use your ult. What's good?